Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the Basketball Bulletin live. We are live. We're going to talk trades. We're going to take your questions and comments on any of the latest news around the NBA. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Donnie Freeman. Donnie, our first time we got to use our new intro. I'm so happy.
Yeah, we had been talking about it for a while. We hadn't never used it. And, that's the first time I actually saw it and heard it. I thought it was pretty well done. And I was just the whole time.
I thought it came out pretty well. Michael said Basketball Bulletin Saturday. That's right. That's right. It is Basketball Bulletin Saturday. For anybody who is not subscribed yet, please make sure you do hit the subscribe button, and then do us a favor, hit that like button as well. Let's get a like spike to kick things off here. A lot going on around the NBA right now. Of course, the trade market really picks up as execs start coming back from Christmas, from New Year's, which we have coming up this week. I'm expecting a fairly active trade deadline this year in the NBA. So that's going to give us a lot of different things to talk about, a lot of teams to look at, a lot of players who could wind up being on the move, despite the new CBA and the complications it's created. I know a lot of people want to know about the Lakers. We'll start here. We got a super chat from Ali. Thank you, Ali. Said, would you rather get high-level role players like Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Walker Kessler, Sexton, or go all in on De'Aaron Fox? Which route is worth giving up assets for? So again, I'm going to assume this is Lakers related since these are all Lakers targets essentially here. Although frankly, they could be targets. I feel like every team in the league right now is interested in Cam Johnson. Like almost every team.
I feel like almost every team in the league is interested in almost all those names. So
yeah. That's certainly fair. That's certainly fair. And basically, especially like De'Aaron Fox, if he hits the market, there's going to be so many teams that are going to be in on that, trying to get him. There's going to be Cam Johnson is just such an easy fit. There's so many different types of teams that can talk themselves into Cam Johnson being the fit for them. But for the Lakers specifically, would you rather go all in after De'Aaron Fox, who seems to be the only quasi superstar right now on the market, aside from Jimmy Butler? I don't fully buy the Miami Heat saying we're not trading Jimmy Butler. I think if the right offer comes along, they will. Would you rather go all in for De'Aaron Fox, or would you rather go get high-level role players with the limited draft capital that they've got?
I'd love to have De'Aaron, but I can't lie to you. If we're getting a few of those guys from the high level area, that's pretty enticing to me too. Like, you don't have the same game by game upside as you would if you got a star level player. But I do like the depth, and I don't know if the 3-star model is one that can succeed in the current NBA. It's been yet to be proven to this point, because we only really have Phoenix trying to do it. So yeah, I think I'd like the first option better personally. But I would love Fox for sure.
I just think you would have to be willing to completely empty the treasure chest, and it's not a very full treasure chest to begin with if the Lakers were to get in on De'Aaron Fox. I mean, we're talking like Austin Reeves, we're talking Dalton Connect, we're talking both their future first round picks, maybe pick swaps, maybe second rounders. Like you'd have to go all in to try to get something like that. So that's the challenge. And honestly, I think that there would be other teams that might even outbid them. Even if the Lakers did go all in, the Houston Rockets, I think, would be a great fit long-term for De'Aaron Fox. They could offer quite a bit. The San Antonio Spurs have already been mentioned as a landing spot. Even if the Lakers went all in, it's not a guarantee that another team wouldn't beat their offer. So I wouldn't say the Lakers are likely to get De'Aaron Fox. I think getting the other guys, Cam Johnson will be tough, because right now there's so many teams that have him on their list, but and Dorian Finney-Smith, again, to a lesser degree as well. But I would say it's more likely they go down the path of getting some of those other guys rather than get in on a player like De'Aaron Fox. But it's also in their DNA to try to go after the big names. So I would be surprised if they didn't at least make the call. But I think it's more likely that we see them go down the depth route rather than go start chasing.
I think the thing with that's pretty enticing is, with the other one, you're kind of fitting the criteria that the Lakers have set of like wanting to get somebody that's young enough to be a part of their system for a while. And you can get some guys like Kessler and Sexton that could fit that bill too. But you're getting a star level guy that fits that you compare with AD for the inevitable post LeBron. So I think that's where that's enticing. But I think right now, while you have LeBron, you should try to maximize that. And not to say Fox can't do that, but I would like to keep the depth around.
What's the best landing spot for Cam Johnson? Because it feels like every team can make an argument for it. But
Contender?
which team should say, you know what, we're going to give up a little bit more than anyone else is willing to, and we're going to get this deal done?
Yeah, I'd look at a team that's pretty close or was right there previously. And to me, I think Dallas would be a good spot for him personally. I think he could fit in perfectly there. I like some of the wings that they've got, but I think Dallas would be a good fit for him. Minnesota, I think that could actually be a pretty good spot for him as well. They need more shooting on that team, but obviously I don't know if they would be willing to give up certain, or if they even have the assets to do it, to be honest. But those are some of the teams that kind of were right there that I think could use an upgrade on the wing. But again, like any team in the league could use him. So
this comment says OKC would outbid anyone for Cam. Well, then why haven't they at this point? Like, I mean, they could do it right now. They could
do that for any
right
trade. Like
for just about any trade. I mean, they've got so many picks and things to throw in there. But the challenge, they don't actually have a lot of expiring contracts to give up. So maybe that's part of the. I hesitate to even call it a challenge because there's so much draft capital they can move. But OKC, I think, would certainly be a fit. But the great thing about Cam Johnson is you could you could go Sacramento Kings, great fit. Lakers, great fit. One I really like. Memphis Grizzlies, great fit. Mavs, great fit. He's a great fit anywhere. He's a great fit anywhere. And it's going to be interesting to see which team is willing to give up the most to go get him from the Nets. But he is, I think, the primary piece out there on the trade. Aside from the star-ish guys, the Jimmy Butlers, the De'Aaron Foxes, I think Cam Johnson is right now the focal point of the trade market. And if somebody gets him, that will trigger a domino effect of other moves. I think a lot of teams are in on him. And if they find out they're not going to get him, they're quickly going to pivot to the Jeremy Grants, the Kyle Kuzma, the Bruce Browns, maybe the Brandon Ingrams of the world if they're not able to get Cam Johnson on what I think is a pretty friendly contract.
Yeah, absolutely. And so like I was saying, I think any team can use him. I don't know that every team can trade for him. Sure. Like, I mentioned a couple of teams. I don't know if they have the assets to do it, but I think he is somebody that, like, if you have the ability to, you should go out and get him.
Chase Thompson said, as a Magic fan, I would love to see Cam with us. Yes, and there was a rumor, it was about 3 weeks ago, that the Magic were interested in Cam Johnson. He would be a great fit for that. But again, great fit everywhere. But I think he would do a nice job pushing the Magic to the next level if they can get help. I mean, my God, they've been hit by so many injuries. But if that team's healthy and they get Cam Johnson, okay, maybe they're cooking something there in Orlando if they can get him.
I wanted to highlight this one. TV says, I don't understand why everyone wants depth. We don't have a starting five that's good enough to win. I assume this is a Lakers thing, and it's kind of a comment on what we were talking about a moment ago. The thing is with the depth, for one, you could maybe get the starting five you're looking for by adding multiple pieces in. But two, again, with the way that the NBA is now, it's depth or bust. Like I said, it's been yet to be proven if a multi-star, like 3-star team can still work in today's NBA. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what you're going for, because with the CBA capping you so much, you've got to have these 3 guys. Say theoretically you go get Fox, he's going to want a new contract within a year or so when he's eligible for an extension. You're going to get capped there, assuming that LeBron is still around, and then you've got to fill in the roster, and then you've got all the different restrictions from probably being a second apron team. And so that's why I think that's the model. But then again, look at the other teams that have won recently. They've had 1 or 2 stars and great pieces around them, and guys that are, like, you could say maybe like a quasi all-star level guy, but like they're mainly just 2 stars and pretty much that. And they're going for really good pieces around these guys. So I think that's why this is what it is. It's
the model that the Lakers kind of, I don't want to say pioneered, but they had back in 2019, 2020 and building around. This is from a piece on clutch points and mentioning Brett Siegel's piece. The Nets will be the ultimate sellers and are open to hearing any offers that come their way between now and the February 6th trade deadline. The trade deadline, it really does revolve around the Brooklyn Nets. There's other pieces. There's a lot of sellers, I think, on the market, which is going to be useful in terms of actually getting deals done and putting prices at reasonable points. But the Nets are the team to watch. I mean, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Day'Ron, all these guys are out there. Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton. I mean, who knows? A team could just throw a huge offer for Nick Claxton, he's on a good contract. Cam Thomas, if the Nets decide they don't want to be the team to pay him, like the Nets are still, even though they've already made their move with Dennis Schroeder, they are still kind of the one-stop shop for NBA teams looking to buy around the league. They are the Walmart of the NBA trade deadline. You can find anything you want with the Brooklyn Nets. And so a lot of what's going to happen on the market, it's going to hinge upon them, where they set their prices, when they trade away some players, because it's just a matter of time. They're not going to go the entire trade deadline, the entire trade season without moving off at least a few of these guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. They've got so many pieces that it would be a no-brainer for them to ship these guys. But at the same time, if the trade market does revolve around them and what they decide to do, I'm curious to see what their asking prices will be. Will they settle for some lower deals, or are they going to just ride up until the deadline and say, all right, let whoever's got the best offer, we're going to try to sit on it as long as we can. I know that they pulled that trigger a little bit earlier with Schroeder, but some of that was because the Warriors were in such a hurry to aggregate him possibly into another deal, so they wanted to get it done. So I don't know if that'd be the case with the rest of these guys.
Which Schroeder has not been all that good with goal. He was great with the Nets, and then suddenly he gets to go. And the Warriors fans got to be thinking, why us? Because he's not been nearly as good with them. But they could wind up. He's a $13 million expiring contract. They could re-aggregate him in a trade. I believe it's February 5th is the date they can do so. And I expect the Warriors to be a major player on the, like, if there's a big move, if I was going to pick any team to make a big move at the deadline, it's the Golden State Warriors. I think they've got the expiring contracts to do it. They've got the future assets to do it. They've got the young talent to do it. And they also have the motivation to go all in and try to win right now. They're the team that in terms of a big, oh my God, where did this come from type move? They are, I think, the team to watch on the trade market.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're one where there's some stuff about, like, maybe they shouldn't invest in Kuminga. And if that's the idea, if they just decide to go in right now, then sure, put them in a deal and try to figure something out.
All right, let's go here. Michael said, any news regarding Pelinka being on the hot seat? Surprised LeBron hasn't done his passive aggressive thing to get via the media to send the message out. I think it was January when he really started with the pass. So maybe it's coming with that kind of messaging.
Did he do something this year?
I thought it was last season.
Last season?
Didn't he tweeted something? I could have sworn.
Oh, it was the Knicks thing, right? The Knicks reference. What did he tweet?
Oh, yeah. And there was the Knicks thing where he had the Knicks towel around.
Yeah,
so people were taking it that to mean. So then, and I thought he tweeted out like a couple emojis or something, like an hourglass or something like that.
Oh, yeah, he did do that.
Oh man, I would Donnie, I would totally do that just to mess with people around trade season. If I was an NBA player, right around the trade deadline, just tweet out the eyeball emojis.
Yeah, the best tweet he did.
Somebody go crazy.
The best tweet he did over the last few years was the "Maybe it's me."
Maybe it's me.
that would. I was like, damn.
That was awesome. As far as Pelinka being on the hot seat, I haven't heard anything about that. I don't. I mean, look, I keep saying it. They extended him off of the Russell Westbrook trade season. He got an extension after that. What does he have to do to be on the hot seat? Yeah. Right? I mean, that's pretty rough. So I don't know what it would take to put him on the hot seat. But you never say never. I mean, look, Mike Brown thought he was fairly safe in Sacramento. The seat was getting hot and everything, and then thought he ran practice, thinks I'm all good, and then he's on his way to the airport and gets the call, yeah, you're fired. You just never know. You never know in this league.
With Rob, do you think it'll be one of those situations where, like, he gets a quote unquote promotion, but like, they hire someone else to do what he's doing? That happens sometimes where, like, the guy gets pushed to a different position, but they don't get fired, but then somebody else comes in and does the job they were supposed to do. Like, do you think that could be the case?
Like Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck, who's like the GM there. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I guess
I feel like
it wouldn't be on if that happened. It wouldn't be on merit if that happened.
Yeah. I don't feel like she's gonna fire him. She has her circle, and she sticks with it through thick and thin. And I think that's just who she is. I don't think she's gonna fire him. So maybe it's something like that. I mean, it's been talked about how Rob has too many hats in the front office anyway. Like he's doing too many different things. They could probably stand to have a couple other people there anyway. So maybe that's just kind of what it is. Like he becomes someone's boss or something. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, he's already elevated pretty high, but I mean, does he just get diverted somewhere else?
Yeah.
We'll see. Hey, Bob Myers, come on down. I think that's what Lakers fans are wanting to see. Johnny said, if LA wants a star, why not Ingram? Cheaper route. So Brandon Ingram, I think, is another kind of inflection point on the trade market, and not just Lakers specific, but because he wants the contract that he wants reportedly somewhere in the 50 million range. I wouldn't want to be the team to give him that money. And apparently the rest of the market doesn't want to be the team to give him that money either, because he's still a New Orleans Pelican. The Pelicans can't give him too much unless they start running into the luxury tax, and they don't want to pay. They're notorious for not paying the luxury tax. So they're limited in what they can give him. So it's a very, very tricky spot. And I do think this is where maybe Cam Johnson coming off the market gets a team to pivot and say, well, okay, we'll deal with Brandon Ingram. I'm not saying Cam Johnson is a better player than Brandon Ingram, but under the new CBA, we're seeing how damaging it is to pay a third tier player, like a third best player on a good team, top one or two guy money. It's very, very difficult to build out a roster that way. And the Phoenix Suns have some of those complications right now, where Bradley Beal, is he really living up to a $50 million contract? Probably not. There's a reason why Zach LaVine, despite having a great season, it has still not been traded, and teams are largely not that interested in him, with the exception of maybe the Denver Nuggets. Maybe something happens there, and he's playing great right now. So Brandon Ingram is a really challenging situation, because teams don't want to pay him that next contract unless he says, you know what, I'll take $35 million. I think then teams would be interested, but then the Pelicans would just say, cool, here you go. Here's an extension. We'll give you $35 million. So it's a tricky spot. I do wonder, though, if Cam Johnson comes off the market, who's on a much more reasonable contract, does some teams say, well, damn, we really need wing depth. We need to get a player, and we're scared of Kyle Kuzma shooting, and Dorian Finney-Smith is a little bit too old. Let's just do it. Let's go get Brandon Ingram, and let's make a run. I wonder if that is the way this plays out here by the February 6th trade deadline.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I think with Ingram, like, he's just in a weird spot because, like you said, the contract stuff, and it's just a weird situation. In terms of LA, I don't know that that'd be a great fit either, just player wise. I mean, we've kind of already had him. Sure, he's better. The team's different. I don't know if I like his fit with LeBron, but I mean, hey, if they have a specific archetype of what they're looking for, he fits the bill. 27.
Well, what is it that the Lakers specifically need? They need athleticism. They need 3-point shooting. They need defensive focus. None of those, and Brandon Ingram has shot better from 3 this season, but none of those things scream Brandon Ingram. He's a very good player, very talented player, but he's not the perfect fit for what it is that they need, unless they say, you know what, we really like him. He's our guy post LeBron. And I just can't see them getting there. Yeah, I like this one. I like Ingram to the Grizzlies. I think would be a really interesting fit. The challenge being he needs the ball in his hands a lot, and they already have Ja, who's going to have the ball most of the time. But they could use some help on the way. Dorian Finney-Smith would also be a great fit with the Grizz. Cam Johnson would be a great fit. But maybe the Grizz wind up being that team for Brandon Ingram. It would be an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely. What trades do you think the Suns will be making?
So let's jump over to Phoenix. I do think the Suns, you know what? It's funny how people get mad if we talk Lakers. Those are the questions we're getting.
That's why I pulled away from Lakers for that
one. If you want us to talk about something other than Lakers, ask a question about a team that's not the Lakers. This is not a Lakers channel. I talk all about the Lakers over on Lakers Nation. So if you don't want Lakers stuff, ask questions that aren't Lakers.
Lakers guys, we love you, of course, but only answer Lakers stuff.
But we're going to talk about all teams here. But I do think the move for Phoenix, because they are so encumbered by being a tier 2 apron team, they can't aggregate salaries in a trade. They have to send out more money than they take back. It's a Yusuf Nurkic trade. It's a Grayson Allen trade, something like that. That's what you're going to need money-wise to get a player of significance back. You're going to have to send one of those. And Nurkic is rumored to be the guy they want to move, They can't get there on Vucevic right now unless you get involved in some kind of interesting 3-team trade. Even then, it's very, very tricky trying to make that work. But is there something where they could essentially they took DeAndre Ayton, right? And they turned him into Yusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen. I wonder if we see the same thing with Nurkic. Could you send him out as a single player, bring back 2 guys that combined make less money than Nurkic, and there you go? Could it be like a Jonas Valanciunas plus a cheap rotation player? Could it be Robert Williams plus something like that? Because I'll tell you what, from the Suns fans that I've seen, they are not thrilled with Nurkic, who by the way now got into that dust up last night, and now I believe it's a 3-game suspension, I think, for him.
Yeah, they don't like him. And he's also, I was looking at his numbers and his lineup data and all that stuff. Yeah, I can see why. He's kind of expendable. But yeah, he's kind of a weird guy. I mean, there's stuff there, but they pretty much are in a situation where they've got to take back less money unless they can match dollar for dollar, right? Which is pretty much not going to happen. So yeah, it would be good if they could turn him into a couple of smaller contracts that could add more depth to this team. They still obviously would need to get another big back because they don't got a lot of those guys in the roster in the first place. But, it's either him or Allen, and that's pretty much all you can really do. Maybe they can get off of Okogie there. I mean, but he's not going to net you back a significant piece. But they also have some other contracts on their books that I do like O'Neal and obviously Dunn on the rookie deal. I don't know if you'd want to get rid of O'Neal, but that's somebody else also that's kind of making a salary that should be pretty movable. But I mean, unless you're really what it is unless you're moving one of your 3 stars, you're not able to really make a significant move here.
Yeah, and that's going to be the challenge for the Suns. It's going to be, can you add the pieces that you need that is going to have a bigger impact than necessarily the value of the player themselves. Like, you're not going to go get I don't know, you're not going to be a landing spot for like De'Aaron Fox or something like that. Yeah. But can you get a guy that by landing that piece, the overall impact on the team is outsized, like a PJ Washington in Dallas, Daniel Gafford in Dallas? Can you get that type of piece? And it'll be tricky because Nurkic has money on the books. If he was an expiring contract, that'd be easier. But I think the Suns. What's that?
It's only 1 year. And
yeah, I mean, it's only
first year's
it's
already
only 1 more year, but still.
So,
yeah,
I think you could sell a team like, hey, we've already paid half this first contract, so don't worry about
it. I've got this question that came up. Where did it go? Oh, convince Beal to waive his no trade clause. Here's the problem with that. Here's the problem. And this is where the Suns are really in trouble. If you convince Bradley Beal to waive his no trade clause, his no trade clause doesn't go away. He doesn't waive it permanently. Yeah. It still exists for the next team. So think about that. Bradley Beal is under contract this season for $50.2 million, $53.7 million next season, $57 million player option the season after that when he'll be 33 years old, 34% of the cap he's taking up. And he would also have a no trade clause. So if you're another team, first you ask the question, does another team want to pay Bradley Beal that $110 million over the next 2 years after this season? Probably not, I would assume. No team wants to do that. Then on top of that, you add in that, oh my God, we're stuck with him. We can't trade. Even if a perfect trade comes along, he can squash it because he's got one of 2 no trade clauses in the NBA, and it does not go away just if he waives it to get out of Phoenix. If I'm another team, I don't want to buy on that. I don't want him. Like all this talk about Jimmy Butler to Phoenix, why would Miami want Bradley Beal? They shouldn't.
They didn't.
They don't.
They didn't last time.
Yeah.
So it's a weird situation. I don't know if you missed this one, but yeah, back to Lakers. D'Lo gave Jackson Hayes in the 29 top 13 protected first and 31 unprotected first for Cam, Sharp, or D'Lo, Rui, Gabe, JHS, 3 seconds for Levine, Craig, and THT as filler, which is better. That's
do they have to take THT back?
Yeah. He's filler. They probably have to for a contextual
He's
reason.
actually done okay this season, but yeah.
So you're getting back Cam and I assume Johnson, right? You can't just say Cam. They've got 2. I assume Johnson.
Yeah.
With Sharp or Levine, Craig, and THT.
I would if it's me.
But you're giving up firsts and you're giving seconds for Levine.
Yeah, you're giving seconds for Levine. The challenge is for Levine, it's the same thing as Brandon Ingram. He's getting paid as a tier 2 guy, as a top guy on your team, and he's not that. He's more of like at best a third guy. Does the math even work on that, on the Levine thing?
I don't know.
Because I'd have to actually punch that in and do the math on it, because that's a lot. I mean,
D'Lo,
yeah,
Rui,
D'Lo,
Gabe, JHS.
Maybe.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot. I'd have to go in and punch it all into the trade machine and see if that actually works. But I think I would prefer, if I'm the Lakers,
the first deal.
I think I'd prefer the first one. I think I'd rather have Cam than, because here's the thing. If it's for whatever reason it doesn't work with Cam Johnson, you could turn around and flip him next year. You could easily retrade him.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work with Zach LaVine, you're stuck. Like, nobody wants the contract already. If you're the team that bites the bullet and says, okay, we'll do it, and now he's making even more money. Now, I know it's a lower percentage of the cap because the cap's going up. It's going to be really hard to get out of that.
Yeah. And the firsts are protected, right? Top 13 protected, and then one unprotected first.
So a top 13 protected tells you, like, if you're rebuilding anyway, you're going to keep that pick.
Yeah. In 29, do you think they'll be rebuilding? Probably.
I mean, what, Anthony Davis will be 36, something like that now, 37?
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, let's go here. What about Zion for Levine? Thoughts? The Bulls still tank. Well, first of all, you would have to be Zion plus another salary, because Zion's only making, I think, $36 million. But let's say the basis of the trade is Zion and Levine. Bulls still tank. Maybe he gets healthy later. Pelicans get a player they can use right now. Man, Donnie, if I'm the Pelicans, I'm running scared of any injury-prone player. Like, I'm not saying that Zach LaVine couldn't step in and help the Pelicans right now, but I think this season is over for them. I think the season is over already. And so if I'm the Pelicans, I'm only looking at next year and beyond, and I'd want more flexibility rather than putting Zach LaVine on my team here. If I'm the Pelicans and I'm moving on from Zion, I would rather really reset things than go get Zach LaVine.
I think this is the type of trade, if you're the Pelicans, you make in the offseason. If you wanted to do this specifically, right. I think you do this in the offseason. There's no reason to bring LaVine in now, have him help you win a couple games. No, you don't want that. I think you do it in the offseason.
I mean, look at the Pels. They're 5-27.
Oh, man.
They're done. They're not making the playoffs. They're out. They can't. You have to. It took 46, 47 wins. 46 wins was the minimum to make the play-in last year in the West. So you're telling me that they've got to win 41 games the rest of the way? Like, they almost can't lose from here on out. They're not going to do that. They're out. If I'm the Pelicans, prepare for next year. That's it. And if that's the case, I don't want Zach LaVine right now. If I'm New Orleans.
Is that trajectory still kind of what it looks like here? I mean, the Suns are in at 500. Like, is that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, right now, if the Suns stayed on this pace, it would take 41 wins in order to get into the play-in,
which is still a lot, obviously. But like, it seems like it's different than last year, which is kind of what I thought would wind up happening. Is that the West is kind of just cannibalizing itself. Like, these teams are playing each other too much. Yeah. So they're all kind of just hanging out in that mid-teen area, and it's going to kind of they're not going to shoot a lot past 500,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there may be something to that, and part of it is I think the West is just going to continue to cannibalize itself, where these teams are going to beat up on each other. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe it doesn't take as many games to get into the play-in. Even if it's 41, I mean, they're not going to. Yeah,
they're not getting to 41.
They're not getting there. So
they're not doing that.
So, and you know what? I'll tell you this. Look, like JS says, Pelicans chasing the flag. I feel like Peter Brandt in Moneyball, right? Like, I actually think this opens up a whole host of possibilities for the New Orleans Pelicans. I know it sucks this season. I know it's not fun seeing your team just get perpetually injured, one after another, and it's frustrating. And this team on paper has real talent. But if this is they could wind up, we could look back 3-4 years from now and say, thank God they had that down year, because it pushed them to get out of the Zion Williamson business. They move on from Brandon Ingram, and it's allowed them to get a great player in this year's draft class and turn the page towards the next iteration of the New Orleans Pelicans. They could rebuild very, very quickly on the fly with this team. And if this is what pushes the Pelicans to make those moves, they could wind up all the better because of it. I know it's frustrating right now, but I think there's a real opportunity for New Orleans to move on from Ingram, move on from Zion, turn the page, and look to a new day in New Orleans.
And and we've talked about that before. And I think that if they try to do that, it wouldn't be like a super fast or a slow rebuild. They've already got half of the pieces, some young guys that they've drafted over the last few years that they've invested in and they want to hang on to. Losing Zion potentially could suck if he ever gets it right, obviously. You've already got a foot out the door. CJ, you'd want to move him too. And he's pretty old. He wasn't, DeJounte, whatever happens there happens. But I don't know that this would be a hard thing for them to do. I think they should just take this opportunity, sell on those guys if possible, and retool. And in like 2 or 3 years, they'd be like right back. Like it wouldn't be very long. So that's the way I see it.
Hadrian, we appreciate the super chat there. Thank you very much. Mikkel said a lesser name for LA, Donnie DiVincenzo. I don't think the Wolves are going to move. I mean, he was supposed to be a big part of why they did the Karl Anthony Towns trade. It was the Knicks giving in on Donnie DiVincenzo that caused the Wolves to say, okay, we'll give you Cat. I know when the Wolves were really struggling, there was a lot of talk of, okay, well, maybe something happens here. And DiVincenzo wasn't happy and all of that. But I think that would be kind of a last resort thing. And now here they are, the 8th seed of the Western Conference. They won their last 2. They did have a rough streak ahead of that. But they're 16-14. If the Wolves were where the Kings are right now, all right, maybe it's a little bit different. But if I'm Minnesota, I'm not panicking right now. I may be looking to move on from Julius Randle. I think most of the metrics will tell you that Randle and Gobert is not working as a great fit together. And so maybe if there's something there that you can find, you take a look at it. But I think the Wolves were pretty sold on Donnie DiVincenzo, and I just don't see them moving on from him right now.
Yeah, I think Randle obviously took the entire spotlight for that trade, but I think that DiVincenzo may be somebody that they hold on to even longer. I'm not sure if they're going to hold on to Randle. And I don't say that because I don't like Randle. I just don't know if this is the right team for him. I like him a lot, but I don't know if this is the right team for him. Whereas I think DiVincenzo, they probably intended or do intend on holding and building around for the foreseeable future and pairing him with Ant. So I think that that's somebody that they're not going to want to move.
All right, let's go here. Chase, if the Kings decide to blow it all up, Domos in Golden State would be electric.
I mean, that would be really good.
Who are they giving up to get? I mean, it would be Wiggins plus Kuminga.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to start stacking up salaries.
I'd give up anything, to be honest, if I was the Warriors to get Demonis.
I'm assuming not.
Of course, not
Curry, not. I'm assuming no Draymond as well. I'd want to pair him with Draymond.
Yeah. Anybody else, I think I'd be in on it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think he'd be a great fit for them. He'd give them that inside presence. I just don't know that the Kings are actually. I think the Kings are going to explore every option they can to avoid blowing it up. And this Mike Brown firing, I think, is evidence of that. They are now committing to paying this guy $30 million over the next 3 years, and because that's the easiest move to make right now. If they were going to blow it all up, why would you get rid of Mike Brown right now? You'd make wholesale changes to your roster first. I think they're going to try to add pieces to this roster. I don't think they're going to trade Sabonis. I don't think they're going to trade Fox at this juncture. Now, Fox this summer or by the trade deadline tells them, I will not sign an extension. I want out. That probably changes the conversation a little bit in Sacramento. But even then, do they just look to get players that can step on the floor and play right now and say, we still have Sabonis, we still have DeMar DeRozan, we still have Malik Monk, we still have Keegan Murray. Let's go try to win even without Fox. Let's get pieces back that can win right now. I could see where the Kings, after already dealing with 17 straight years of missing the playoffs, they probably don't have much of an appetite to tear it down and rebuild again.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't see them pulling it apart anytime soon. So that's not one thing I would think. But in the aftermath of the firing, I saw a lot of people come to the defense of the coach, and that's
Uh-huh.
perfect. I don't really think he was the main issue there at all. He just won coach of the year, which apparently is a curse in the NBA.
Apparently.
Apparently. And I think that overall he's done more good for them, bringing them back to being a playoff contender in the playoffs, all that stuff. And revamping that team and their offense and all that stuff. I think he's been awesome. But one thing that I think I had forgot about was ownership oftentimes doesn't make the best decisions with this team.
Sure.
And so maybe that is for good or for better or worse, the problem with this team, and how they'll decide to move going forward is ownership, so that's one thing to consider.
I thought Mike Brown made some curious rotation decisions when we look at Kevin Huerter versus Keon Ellis. I think a lot of Kings fans were clamoring for more Keon Ellis minutes, and it'll be interesting to see what Doug Christie does when they play tonight. But yeah, it's still. I mean, I think the Kings are going to do everything they can to avoid trading Fox. This was an interesting question: who makes better GMs, agents, former players, or the people knowing the business? And how come players can't reconstruct their contracts like the NFL? So the second question, part of that is just the NBA's player association is simply much, much stronger than the NFL's. And they would just never allow that. They don't want teams coming to their players and saying, hey, restructure your contract or else. In the NFL, you could say, well, look, you're either going to restructure your contract or we're going to waive you, right? We're gonna cut you. That situation pops up in the NFL. The NFLPA is not nearly as strong as the NBA Players Association. The NBA Players Association, it would be, immediate lockout if they tried to introduce this in a new collective bargaining agreement. Whenever that comes up, I think it's 2030. The NBA Players Association will not stand for it. They will not allow players to be pressured into restructuring their contracts. So it's something that just does not exist in the NBA. One thing that I've always thought would be cool in the NBA is if there was a way for for teams that are trading away a player like you have in baseball to pay part of that player's salary. So like if the Bulls are trading Zach LaVine, they could trade Zach LaVine to whoever, just the Magic, I don't care what team, and say, we're going to trade him to you, but we're going to keep $10 million of his cap hit on our books. I thought that would be a really interesting wrinkle in the way trade negotiations work and all of that. But that is also not a thing currently in the NBA. But who makes better GMs? I think it depends on the individual. Depends on the individual, how they network, how they communicate with everybody else, and all of that. So it really depends on the individual and the people they put around them, because it's not just the GM, it's their team around them as well. The people they have advising them, the people they have negotiating and making decisions. And that matters a lot too.
Yeah, and maybe some of that also is, former coaches. Sometimes coaches move up,
Sure.
like Brad, who I thought was a good coach, obviously, and he seems to be a better GM, championship GM. So,
yeah,
that's a thing too. So, what I'll tell you is it's definitely not agents if you ask Laker fans. That's what I'll say.
That's true. That's true. Maybe a little bit different if you ask Knicks fans, though.
Okay.
All right,
That's true.
Let's go here. Tamal Paul said, even if Sacramento somehow agrees to trade Fox to LA, will Fox agree to be the number 3 behind AD and Braun? Wasn't he aiming for an all NBA push for his contract value next year? Yeah, but if he comes to the decision that he can't win and then he gets traded and not eligible for that supermax anyway, like that's where, I think I would, and I don't know that Fox cares particularly much about being the guy on the team or whatever. It sounds like winning is his top priority. So if he thinks he's going to win by doing that, and if the Lakers are saying, hey, come be one of our guys for the next couple of years, LeBron's going to walk away, and then you are the guy along with AD, I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting scenario for Fox, but I don't know that De'Aaron Fox is the kind of player that like Anthony Edwards is determined to not just be the guy on the Wolves, but be the guy in the NBA. He wanted to be the guy on Team USA until everybody started playing, or a number of guys started playing better than him. I don't know if De'Aaron Fox cares that much about being the guy on the team.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He might. I'm not really sure how big his ego is, but I think it seems like there's a period when players start to hit like 27, 28, where they start to really, shift their mindset towards, I just need to win. Like, I want to win right now. Like, I'm tired of this. Like, especially if you've been losing, they start to just be like, I just want to win. And I think that's maybe where he's at now, where it's just like, it's all the other stuff's cool, but I'm trying to win a championship, and all the other stuff will follow.
We put so much value on championships. I mean, how often does Charles Barkley hear, but you never won a ring?
Yeah.
Right? Like but you never won a ring, right? So guys hit a certain point and they think, man, I got to get a ring. I got to find a way to win one. I got to get it. I don't want to finish my career. And when you hit 29, 30 in the NBA, you start thinking about stuff like that. You start thinking about that.
Some of the other guys that we've seen, like LeBron and AD, both, I think around 27, 28, they were like, nah, I got to start winning now. Like, I think that's just a very common thing. So,
all right, let's go here. What's up with Utah? Ainge is a menace for holding Kessler hostage. Also, if the Lakers or any other team traded with Utah, what players do you want to see? So I think it wasn't just Utah wanting to move on from Kessler. It was Kessler wanting to move on from Utah. I think that was part of it because he wasn't happy. They were playing him off the bench last year. And that's not the case anymore. That's no longer that he's starting now. He's playing great. Or he's protecting the rim at a very high level. And I see why Utah doesn't want to move on. I don't think they're holding him hostage. I think Utah they had some moments over the summer where they thought, you know what, maybe if a team was willing to give up a lot, we'll go ahead and move on from him. But now with how he's been playing, I'd be surprised if they moved him. I just think they'd be better off just hanging on to him because he's been excellent.
I've said it the entire time. I don't know why they were playing with him like that anyway. Like, why is he coming off the bench? He was a Team USA team member. He's been super good. Why is he coming off the bench? Why are you not extending it? Why is he on the block?
Yeah.
Just stop messing around with this guy. Like, just friggin' keep him. Like, I get that he's not your modern, 3-point shooting, hyper athletic center, but he's great at what he does do. So there's still a place for guys like that. So I don't know why they wouldn't want to just keep him.
As far as which players on the Utah Jazz would I like to see moved, Colin Sexton is a guy that I think is really interesting. He is a more efficient scorer than I think he gets credit for. At 18.3 million, 19.1 million the season after, I think he's a solid value. I like Colin Sexton a lot. John Collins, perpetually on the trade block, was on the trade block for years with the Atlanta Hawks until they finally moved him. I think he's a bit underrated as well, though, honestly, probably a little over. Like, if he was making 18 million, I'd be a lot more comfortable than with 26.5 million this year. But John Collins is another one I wouldn't mind seeing the move. And then Jordan Clarkson, the efficiency has not been there for him, but 32 years old, would like to see him get onto a contender where he can be kind of a super sub, maybe come in, give you a little bit of scoring. That's the stage of his career that he's at. So it's those top three: Collins, Sexton, Clarkson. I think those are the guys that I like to see on the move with Utah. I don't think they actually move all three, but if they move two of the three, I think that'd be a pretty good trade deadline for Utah.
Those are the only guys on their roster that they should be looking to move, really. The rest of these guys are young guys or guys that either don't really have a lot of value. So, yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean, there's one other guy on there. If he was eligible, would you be willing to ship him out?
Who?
Markkanen.
Oh, Markkanen?
They clearly are interested in keeping him because they just gave him $50 million. But, like, if he was eligible, do you think they'd be taking calls?
I think they would be taking calls, yes. I think they would be taking calls. However, I think Markkanen made it very clear he does not. I mean, by his actions, he does not want to go anywhere. He could have made himself trade eligible. He chose to wait to sign his extension until making sure that he would not be trade eligible this season. His trade restriction lifts on February 7th. The trade deadline is February 6th. He waited one extra day just to make sure that he can't be traded this season. So, yes, I think Utah would take calls just because they're going to listen on anybody. But Markkanen wants to stay, and he's a great player. So, you know what? For the time being, stay there, and Utah should do what they can to get the best out of him.
By the way, Trev, really quick. New milestone for the live. We are almost at 1,000 viewers, 900.
Let's go. So, hit that like button
keeps
for us,
going up. So, yeah, hit that like button. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. About 80% of viewers aren't subscribed. So I'm sure some of you guys that are watching aren't. make sure you stick around because we do this type of content all the time. So new milestone, over 900.
Awesome. So happy to see, especially this was, I think I scheduled it about 30 minutes before we were going to come on here and go live. We didn't promote this or anything like that. Just wanted to come on here and talk some hoops. So really happy to see so many of you hanging out with us here on a Saturday. Mikkel said basketball bulletin, basketball not through purple and gold lenses, but purple and gold frames. I use the phrase purple and gold lenses all the time over on Lakers Nation. Just kidding. Love you, Trev and Donnie. Well, thank you. We really do appreciate that. And let's say, I mean, even just general NBA shows that aren't, obviously Donnie and I are both Lakers fans. And we do all of that. But even general NBA, you get a lot of Lakers topics coming in. It's just the way that it is. Lakers fans, we are legion. So it's just the way that it goes. But so there will be some stuff that pops up on here. But again, we talk about the whole league here. So
can't fool me with all that Lakers stuff behind you.
I don't want to change my set. I think then I have to reset my camera. What I need is I just need a whole new setup.
Yeah.
But maybe that's an August project. That's a project for August, not for right now. So what do you think about something like Butler for Cam, Dorian Finney-Smith, Zion Williamson, Miami not for him? LN will always be in the chat for the haters. So Jimmy Butler for Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith, or like a Zion Williamson, something like that. I have a hard time imagining Zion in Heat culture. I just have a hard time with that. Given that kind of the word about Zion is that he doesn't work that hard and all of that, and there's questions about the weight and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't seem like the guy that's going to fit in Heat. Maybe it would happen, though, and it would be the best thing for him. But yeah, I don't know. And on the surface, that seems like a little bit of a rough fit. As far as Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, yeah, the problem is the Nets should want no part of Jimmy Butler. And that's the rumor that they don't. That's part of they're one of the few teams that have cap space. That's the other thing. If the Nets want Jimmy Butler, they could sign him with cap space this summer. They don't have to give up stuff for him. So, but if you get into a 3-team trade or something where Jimmy's going somewhere, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson are going to the Heat, okay, I could get that. That would, make some sense for them. But the Nets as a landing spot for Jimmy Butler makes zero sense. I would definitely not be interested in that if I'm Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't really do it.
Oh, Zaire Williams, not Zion. We were talking Zion earlier, so I thought you were talking about.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was Zion Williamson, and he truncated the name because of the characters limit. Got it. Zaire Williams. Even then, the Nets shouldn't be interested.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't be in on Jimmy.
Yeah. I do think Zion in Miami, though, is funny.
Yeah. I wanted to answer this one. Question for Donnie: how did you join the Bulletin team? Will there be future members like Keith Smith? To answer the second question, do we have any plans to bring anyone else on? I actually don't know that.
Not as of this moment.
We've not.
I mean, Keith may pop in every now and then or something like that, but Keith is working on the Basketball Bulletin Substack and doing his thing there. Which we kind of, when Keith and I both said we're going to create Basketball Bulletin, we're going to do something that's kind of ours. We started the Substack at first, and I said, you know what, like, I'm really in on the YouTube stuff. Let me do the YouTube thing and just take this and run with it. Keith said, I'm going to run with the Substack. So he's got kind of his world there, and we've got this here with Basketball Bulletin. But you know what, we're growing like crazy. We're taking off. We're getting a lot of people coming in and finding the channel and all of that. So never say never as far as growth. But right now, I'm pretty happy with the way things are set up.
Yeah, and for the first part, I actually just shot my shot at Trev for LN, and then that turned into Heroic Haven, which we admittedly don't do a lot on. And
we're so busy with basketball.
Yeah, we're so busy with basketball. And then he was like, you know what do you think about this channel? I've got this channel because he already had it going. And, I pitched some ideas and we just kind of put it into action and the channel took off. So that's kind of how things went.
Yeah, it's been great. We've been so appreciative and so blown away by the support that we've gotten here on Basketball Bulletin and the amount of subscribers that we're getting, people finding us every day and watching our stuff and telling us so many great things. We we weren't sure how this would be received, but we are beyond thrilled with the way this is going right now. I'll tell you that,
Absolutely.
everybody. You guys are phenomenal, and we are humbled by the response that this channel has been getting already. Let's go here. Roan said Golden State Warriors are bad at the moment. Could we realistically get Curry? I don't see any way they're trading Curry. I just don't see it. On a more serious note, okay, he was kidding too. Do you think LA is championship ready if we get only Vucevic and Dorian Finney-Smith? And my girl is good, Trev. Only the car crashed. Oh, good. That's Rome was the one who the car accident won.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm glad she's okay. That, of course, was the most important thing there. As far as Vucevic and Dorian Finney-Smith, I think that checks a couple of boxes. I think that's probably the minimum of what the Lakers would need to make a real run. Is you get a wing and you get a big. I think they could use another guard as well. And Dorian Finney-Smith, he's a good player. He's a good dude too. I'll tell you that. He's a good dude. But he's not necessarily the hyper athlete that I think the Lakers need. I think they need just an uber athletic player as well. He fits a need on the wing, and he can occasionally shoot the three for you. There's been a little bit of up and down there over the years, but I think these guys can fit. I think they can help. I'm still looking for three pieces though. If I'm the Lakers, and let me say that maybe this would be enough to get them in the mix. But I don't know if it truly puts them over the top because one of their weaknesses is athleticism, and I don't know that you check the box with either one of these guys.
Yeah, I don't think the Warriors will give up Curry at all.
No,
But like I don't know if that'll happen. After the Olympic thing, there was some talk about whether or not, like, if the Warriors kind of floundered, maybe they'd be willing to let him get traded to be paired with LeBron in LA, like stuff like that. I saw a lot of. I didn't really buy it then. I don't buy it now. Even if they're garbage for the last few years of his career, they'll probably still keep him. Reality is he's Steph, and he'd probably want to retire there, and they'd be happy to sell the tickets. It is what it is. And for the second part of that, I don't know if that makes them championship ready, quote unquote. I do think it depends on who you give out, and maybe you have a spot open, maybe you get somebody on the buyout market. I think other things need to fall into place, but I do think that if you get the right matchups situationally, you could make a run if you get those guys.
You'd have to get the right matchups. I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. You have to get the right matchups, and that'll be true of a lot of teams in the West. By the way, Donnie, I'll just ask you on here: are you around for the Lakers game tonight?
Yeah, I should be good.
Okay, you want to come and hang out? So Donnie and I will do the play-by-play over on LN tonight. Then, so come join us. Come hang out for Lakers Kings, the new look Kings. I wonder, with Doug Christie now coaching the Kings, will Rick Fox be in attendance?
That's a deep cut. That's a deep cut.
I'm old. Chase Thompson said, "Is it just me, or is it time to stop trusting the process?" As in Embiid would like to see Maxey as the face of the Sixers move on from Embiid. I think they will get there eventually. Man, there's times, Donnie, where I watch Embiid and I'm like, oh man, this guy's not moving well out on the floor anymore. And I hope he gets back to being his old self, not his old self, but the former version of himself. But I do think at some point that maybe that transition will take place. But Embiid is what, 30? But he feels like an old 30 right now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I just think he's playing through so many injuries right now, and he's not able to get fully healthy. And I don't know if that's just going to be the case for the rest of his career. There was probably something to him saying that he's not going to play back-to-backs and all that stuff. So I don't know, man. But I kind of, to be honest, I kind of think it may be time for them to try to make a pivot. Similarly to the Pels, they're in a good spot. They don't have to do a full-blown rebuild.
No.
But I think maybe it would be good if they did decide to do something like that, but obviously they won't. And I can understand why they wouldn't make that decision. But I just think that this season has been not great. I think that they're starting to rebound a little bit lately, but I just
they won on Christmas against the Celtics.
Yeah, I think they just got off to such a slow start this year.
Yeah.
And it's still a long season. And Embiid obviously can play better, but I don't know. I'm not very in on this team right now, personally.
I'm not either in terms of the long term, but they're already right back in the mix. I mean, and part of that is just the East.
Because the East,
but they're a half game back of the play-in right now in the East.
Yeah,
they're 7-3 in their last
7-3. Yeah,
I think they're
so
they're
they
okay.
can
And then
obviously get back up there. I also
for
don't
sure.
like some of the injury concerns you'd have with guys like PG as he gets older. That contract is going to be an albatross. Like I don't know if I like this, but they went in to win. They went in to win this year. So I mean, maybe they can pull it off if they get healthy at the right time.
Zinar said they do realize the process refers to them tanking, right? It has nothing to do with the current Sixers. I think it's a reference to Embiid years ago saying, I'm the process. Remember the whole trust the process thing? So when the previous commenter said trusting the process, he means trusting Joel Embiid because Joel Embiid said, I'm the process. So that's what I think it was. But yes, trusting the process. The process was tanking, bottoming out, trying to get a bunch of top picks. Some of those picks panned out. Some of them did not. I mean, Jahlil Okafor is trying to play his way back into the NBA right now. Ben Simmons, obviously, we know the way that went. But it was Embiid years ago proclaiming himself to be the process that I think was the reference there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everybody. Well, we've been on here for about an hour now. Again, we did this sort of impromptu. We only gave about 30 minutes of warning. So you guys continue to be the best. We are, so grateful and so happy to see so many of you here, especially middle of the day on a Saturday to pop in and talk NBA with us.
Also, by the way.
Oh, is there? There's one that I missed?
There's one more at the bottom. Just want to
there it is. There it is. Let me get this one. Solomon, hello from Peru. How is this trade? D'Lo, JHS, Lewis, 2 unprotected firsts for Cam Thomas, Dorian Finney-Smith, Day'Ron Sharpe, 2 seconds, and then shop those 2 seconds and Gabe for Cody Martin. I like Cam Thomas a lot. Does he fit the need for the Lakers? I don't know. But I mean, he could be a really good player moving forward. Is he ultimately best as a sixth man, or is he truly a starter? I think that's a question that's still, out there on him. But the 2 unprotected first, that's like you're betting big on Cam Thomas. Let me put it this way. The Lakers would have to see Cam Thomas as a guy that they think could, in the next couple of years, be like the guy on the team. And in order to give up both firsts in this deal, because Day'Ron, I like Day'Ron a lot, but I think he's probably a backup big, moving forward in the NBA. That's what he is right now, but I think that's probably about what he's going to be. And Dorian Finney-Smith is 31. I like him, but he's 31. You're not getting a future piece there. You'd have to be very sold on Cam Thomas being a huge piece for your team moving forward. And if that's the case, and I think you can make the argument for it, but if that's the case, then you do it. If you're not sure on Cam Thomas, or you think his best role is as a sixth man, then you don't do this.
Yeah, I think this one's kind of interesting because while you're giving up the first, you're keeping some of your main core pieces. You're keeping, obviously you're sending out D'Lo, but you're keeping Dalton, Max, AR, even Rui in this. So maybe you could even flip Rui if you wanted to and turn him into something else. You're also getting back seconds that they're saying you should flip with Gabe for Cody Martin. So that's, I guess, part of this as well. You're also getting Cody in that deal. So I think it's unprotected is a lot to ask. That's considering how far out they are. The Lakers should be rebuilding. If you could put protections on at least one of those, I think you do it.
That's fair, especially and it all comes down to Cam Thomas, I think. But yeah, that's fair. I could see something like that. All right, everybody. Thank you again for coming in. We appreciate all of you so much. If you're here and you're not subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit that like button one last time. Get this out to as many people as possible. Till next time, everybody, enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy some basketball tonight. See ya and stay safe.